Imagine for a moment that everything you've ever believed about your thoughts, your choices, and your potential has been only half the truth. Beneath the surface of what you call your conscious mind lies a hidden field, a vast and powerful network that doesn't just react to reality but actually helps to create it. And at the center of this extraordinary network is something most people have only heard about in science documentaries or cryptic quotes by great physicists: quantum entanglement. But here's the twist. What if quantum entanglement isn't just a scientific phenomenon that happens in sterile labs or faraway galaxies? What if it's the hidden language of your subconscious, quietly influencing every single event that unfolds in your life? This isn't fiction. It's a bridge between cutting-edge science and the hidden architecture of the human mind. Every time you think a thought, your brain doesn't simply light up like a switchboard. It generates a wave of possibility. Those electrical impulses are entangled with your emotional frequencies, your belief systems, and your environment. They ripple out into the quantum field, and like a whisper carried through a still room, they return to you, shaped, amplified, and ready to become your lived reality. For centuries, mystics have talked about invisible forces, while scientists have carefully dissected the physical world. But what happens when these two streams finally meet? Quantum entanglement has proven something radical. Once two particles are linked, they remain connected. No matter how far apart they are, a change in one instantly affects the other. There's no delay, no distance, no limit. Now imagine replacing those two particles with your conscious thought and your subconscious blueprint. One shapes the other in real time. That's the code most people never learn how to read, let alone control. If you've ever wondered why some people seem to manifest success, health, or love almost effortlessly while others struggle for years, the answer isn't luck or destiny. It's alignment. It's their subconscious being entangled with a frequency that matches the reality they want. It's not about forcing outcomes. It's about tuning into the code that already exists, hidden beneath layers of limiting beliefs, fear, and noise. Think of your subconscious as a vast ocean and your conscious mind as a single boat floating on its surface. Most people spend their lives trying to control the waves from above, steering frantically, afraid of storms. But quantum entanglement is like diving beneath the surface and discovering an undercurrent that can carry you exactly where you want to go. Effortlessly, powerfully, almost magically. And here's the most incredible part. Once you learn how to access this current, reality begins to bend around your frequency. Not because you're bending the rules of physics, but because you're finally speaking its hidden language. Modern neuroscience has already proven that the subconscious runs over 95% of our daily actions, thoughts, and behaviors. You're not consciously deciding to breathe, blink, or regulate your heartbeat. But what's less known is that this subconscious isn't just an autopilot system. It's also a receiver and a transmitter. It communicates with something larger than you. Some call it the universe, others call it the field. Scientists might call it the quantum vacuum. But the essence is the same. It's a living web of entanglement, and you're woven into it. Let's get real for a second. How many times have you thought about someone, only to have them call you minutes later? How many times have you felt something was about to happen, and then it did? These aren't random coincidences. They are the moments when the veil between your conscious and entangled subconscious lifts, just enough for you to glimpse the deeper mechanism. Most people dismiss it, but a few pay attention, and those who learn how to work with this mechanism change their entire reality. Picture this: you hold a tuning fork in your hand and strike it. Another tuning fork across the room, tuned to the same frequency, begins to vibrate. That's entanglement. Your thoughts are the strike, your subconscious is the resonating fork, and the universe, it's the air that carries the frequency. If you strike a frequency of doubt, fear, or lack, your subconscious vibrates with it, and reality responds in kind. But if you strike a frequency of certainty, abundance, and clarity, the response is just as instantaneous, just as powerful. The code is not something external you have to download. It's already inside you, etched into the deepest layers of your subconscious. But like any code, it needs the right key to unlock its full potential. That key is awareness. Once you become aware of how your thoughts and feelings entangle with the quantum field, you can begin to rewrite the hidden instructions that shape your daily life. You can begin to shift from reaction to creation. Let's make this tangible. Imagine you wake up feeling anxious. Your conscious mind tells you there's no reason to feel this way, but deep down, your subconscious is resonating with a frequency of fear picked up from past experiences or subtle environmental cues. That frequency sends a signal into the field, entangling with possibilities that match it. missed opportunities, uncomfortable encounters, or unexpected setbacks. But if instead, you recognize the feeling as a signal, not a truth, you can consciously shift your inner frequency. You can breathe, anchor, focus, and choose a different vibration. The moment you do that, the quantum field responds differently. Not tomorrow, instantly. This isn't about wishful thinking. It's about precision. Just like a radio can't tune into a station unless it matches the frequency, your subconscious can't connect to the reality you want unless it vibrates at the same level. And here's where most people get it wrong. They try to think positive, consciously, but their subconscious is still playing an old track of doubt, pain, or fear. Entanglement doesn't respond to what you say. It responds to what you are, to your frequency. There's a reason ancient spiritual teachings, modern quantum science, and peak performance psychology are all starting to converge on this point. The subconscious is not a passive observer, it's the architect. And quantum entanglement is the blueprint it uses to build your life. Once you understand that, you stop feeling like life is happening to you, and start realizing it's happening through you. This is why the greatest shift doesn't begin in the world outside. It begins in the invisible world within. As you awaken to this realization, the narrative of your life starts to shift. Old patterns lose their grip. Synchronicities begin to multiply. Opportunities that once seemed impossible start to appear. It's not magic, it's physics meeting consciousness. Every time you choose to align your inner state with the frequency of what you truly desire, not what you fear, not what you're trying to escape from, you are rewriting the code. And as you do, your subconscious stops being your saboteur and becomes your greatest ally. Quantum entanglement doesn't care who you are, where you're from, or what your past looks like. It responds only to frequency. That is your language, your power, your key, and this is only the beginning, because once you fully grasp this mechanism, you can move beyond simply attracting isolated events and begin designing entire timelines. You can step into the version of yourself that already exists in the field, the one aligned with the reality you want to live. This isn't just about getting things, it's about becoming the frequency that makes those things inevitable. Here's where the shift gets real. Once you understand that your subconscious isn't just some buried vault of memories, but an active participant in the quantum field, everything about how you live your life starts to change. You no longer see yourself as a victim of circumstance, but as a co-creator of your reality. Quantum entanglement isn't simply a theory you read about in books. It becomes something you feel, sense, and work with. And the more you work with it, the more your outer world begins to mirror the inner frequency you emit. The reason most people never unlock this power is because they live almost entirely at the surface of their consciousness. They try to solve deep problems with surface-level tools, logic, willpower, and occasional bursts of motivation. But your subconscious doesn't respond to motivation, it responds to state. If your subconscious is still entangled with frequencies of fear, scarcity, or unworthiness, no amount of surface thinking can override that. It's like trying to steer a massive ship by blowing on the sails. The wind won't be enough. You have to dive below and shift the current. This is why emotional resonance is everything. Emotions are the language your subconscious speaks fluently. Every thought you have is like typing into a computer, but your emotions are the enter key that sends the command into the quantum field. Without emotion, your thoughts are just background noise, but with emotion, especially elevated emotions like certainty, gratitude, love, and trust, they become potent frequencies capable of entangling with the field in powerful ways. Take a moment and think of a time when something incredible happened seemingly out of nowhere. Maybe it was meeting the right person at the perfect moment, landing an opportunity you didn't expect, or experiencing a coincidence so precise it felt impossible to explain. These moments don't occur randomly. They are flashes of perfect alignment, moments when your inner state synced up with a frequency that already existed in the field, and reality responded instantly. Most people call this luck, but what if luck is simply the subconscious and the field dancing in perfect harmony? This is why rituals, meditations, visualizations, and affirmations can be so powerful when used correctly. They're not magic spells, they're tuning devices. They train your subconscious to entangle with higher frequencies, to resonate with timelines where your desired reality already exists. But here's the catch: many people repeat affirmations while still feeling doubt. They visualize while carrying old emotional baggage, and the field doesn't respond to the words. It responds to the frequency beneath them. You can't say, "I am abundant," while feeling lack and expect the quantum field to respond with abundance. The two frequencies don't match. You have to become the signal, not just broadcast it. Think of reality like a mirror. If you stand in front of a mirror frowning, the reflection won't smile back. You must smile first. Your subconscious is that first smile. When it shifts, the reflection, your external reality, shifts too. But most people stand in front of the mirror demanding the reflection to change first. They wait for proof, for something external to happen before they feel differently inside. Quantum entanglement works the other way around. You become the cause and the effect follows. Now, let's go deeper. Entanglement doesn't just happen on a physical or emotional level. It happens on a timeline level. Every possible version of you already exists as a potential in the quantum field. There's a version of you living in scarcity, another living in abundance, another standing on a stage sharing your message, another living your dream life in vivid detail. These aren't fantasies, they're frequencies. And the frequency you embody determines which version of reality you entangle with. This is what some call timeline jumping, but it's less about jumping and more about tuning. Your subconscious is like a lock, and the quantum field holds infinite keys. When you shift your inner frequency, you change the lock's shape, and suddenly, a new key fits. That's why some transformations seem instant. It's not that something suddenly appeared out of thin air. It's that your subconscious tuned into a reality that was already there, waiting for you. This is also why repeating old stories is so dangerous. Every time you tell yourself, "I'm stuck," "I'm not lucky," or "things never work out for me," you're not just describing your current situation, you're entangling with it. You're amplifying the frequency of that timeline, making it more solid, more real. But when you change the story, even slightly, you create a crack in the frequency wall, a space where a new reality can begin to leak through. Think of it like a radio dial. If you're tuned to a station playing static, no matter how loudly you turn up the volume, you'll just get louder static. But if you shift the dial just a bit, a clear signal comes through. That's what happens when you align your subconscious frequency with the reality you want. And once you're locked into that frequency, the external world has no choice but to adjust. Because in the quantum field, energy doesn't flow from outside in, it flows from inside out. Here's where your power becomes undeniable. Your subconscious is already entangled with countless signals, memories, beliefs, generational patterns, environmental cues. Most of those signals were not chosen consciously. They were absorbed from childhood, culture, family, media, and the people around you. Which means most of the reality you live isn't truly yours. It's borrowed frequencies. But the moment you become aware of them, you can disentangle. You can cut the cords of old timelines and consciously create new ones. And it begins with a decision, not a forced, shaky decision, but a grounded, embodied one. When you decide deeply that your reality will no longer be dictated by unconscious patterns, your subconscious takes notice. The quantum field takes notice. The old frequency weakens, and the new one begins to stabilize. You don't need to see evidence right away. In fact, the most powerful shifts happen before any physical evidence appears. Because the field is reorganizing around your new vibration, quietly, invisibly, but powerfully. Let's talk about resistance for a moment. Many people try to shift their frequency but hit a wall of old emotions. Fear, doubt, shame, guilt. They think it's a sign they're failing. It's not. It's a sign the old entanglements are surfacing to be released. You can't access a new frequency while clinging to an old one. The discomfort is not a punishment, it's a passageway. The moment you feel resistance, you're standing on the threshold of change. Imagine an old radio antenna covered in rust. The signal is weak and filled with noise. Cleaning the rust doesn't destroy the antenna, it makes the signal clearer. That's what happens when you face and release your emotional resistance. Every layer you shed sharpens your frequency, making your entanglement with higher timelines more precise. This is why real transformation isn't just about repeating nice words, it's about emotional alignment. It's about feeling what it's like to already be the person you're becoming, before the evidence shows up. And once you hold that frequency consistently, not perfectly, but consistently, synchronicities begin to appear. The right people enter your life, unexpected opportunities emerge, doors you thought were closed swing open. It's not because reality suddenly decided to favor you. It's because your entanglement shifted. The field mirrors you. The great paradox of this power is that you don't chase reality to change it. You become the reality you want, and it finds you. Just as two entangled particles remain connected across light years, the timeline that matches your new frequency finds its way to you, no matter how impossible it seems. That's the beauty of the entanglement code. It doesn't care about distance, logic, or probability. It responds to frequency, and only frequency. Here's where the real transformation happens, not in theory, but in lived experience. Once you've accepted that your subconscious is an active participant in the quantum field, and once you begin to shift the frequencies you entangle with, reality starts to reshape itself in subtle, then undeniable ways. At first, these shifts might feel like coincidences, but the deeper you go, the more you understand that nothing is truly random. Every event, every opportunity, every meeting begins to line up with the vibration you've chosen to live in. The human mind loves linear explanations. It wants to believe that A causes B in a neat, straight line, but quantum entanglement works like a web. The moment your frequency shifts, the web rearranges. A stranger you meet, a phone call you receive, an idea that suddenly sparks. All of these can be the way your new reality threads itself into being. Most people miss this because they expect the change to come in predictable, obvious ways, but the field doesn't speak the language of logic, it speaks the language of alignment. This is why surrender is such a powerful amplifier. When you stop trying to control every step, you allow the field to weave the most efficient path to the reality that matches your frequency. Think of it like setting a destination in a GPS. Once the destination is locked in, you don't have to keep asking the GPS to explain every turn. You trust it, you drive. And even if there are detours, the destination remains locked in. That destination is your chosen frequency. Once your subconscious is tuned to it, the field takes care of the how. But make no mistake, this is not passive. It's not about sitting back and waiting. It's about active alignment. Your thoughts, emotions, behaviors, and energy become coherent. You become the version of yourself who already lives in the reality you desire. And as you do, resistance begins to dissolve, because the old frequencies no longer match who you are. This is how identities are rewritten, not through force, but through resonance. Let's talk about identity for a moment, because this is where most people get stuck. They try to manifest a new life while clinging to an old self-image. But your subconscious doesn't follow your words, it follows your identity. If deep down you still identify as the person who struggles, who is overlooked, who is powerless, then no matter how many techniques you try, the entanglement remains with that old version of reality. To truly shift timelines, you must shift who you are being. This is why the most profound transformation happens in silence, not noise. When you close your eyes and feel into the version of yourself who has already crossed the threshold, you begin to merge with that timeline. Your nervous system doesn't know the difference between a vividly imagined state and a lived one. That's why elite athletes rehearse victories in their minds before they ever step onto the field. They're not fantasizing, they're entangling with the future. Your subconscious is like wet clay, shaped by repetition, emotion, and experience. The moment you immerse yourself in the feeling of already being, the clay reshapes. New neural pathways form, old patterns lose their grip, and because the subconscious is entangled with the field, this shift doesn't stay locked inside your mind. It radiates outward. The field responds. Synchronicity becomes your new language. Here's the part most people underestimate. Reality is incredibly responsive to coherence. When your thoughts say one thing, your emotions another, and your actions something else entirely, the signal is weak and scattered. But when everything aligns, when your thought, emotion, and behavior form one clear frequency, the signal is impossible to ignore. It cuts through noise, it resonates. And resonance is the language of entanglement. Think of a laser beam. Ordinary light scatters in all directions. But a laser focuses every photon into perfect alignment. That's why it can cut through steel. Your frequency works the same way. Scattered signals create weak results. Aligned frequency creates impact. When your subconscious is fully attuned to the frequency of the reality you want, your presence alone begins to shape the environment around you. People feel it. Opportunities sense it. The web rearranges around it. And this is not mysticism. Its power most of us have simply forgotten. Children use it naturally. Before they absorb limiting beliefs from the world, they move through life as creators. Their imagination isn't bound by rules. They feel something, believe it fully, and their world shifts accordingly. Over time, conditioning dulls that ability. But the code doesn't disappear. It simply goes dormant, waiting to be reawakened. Let's bring this even closer to home. Imagine you've carried a belief for years that you're unlucky, that opportunities never come your way. That belief is a frequency. It's been entangled with a timeline where, indeed, you experience scarcity. But one day you catch the thought, you pause. Instead of running the old script, you choose a new one. I am surrounded by opportunities. The field is working in my favor. At first, it might feel hollow, but you're not waiting for it to feel real. You're teaching your subconscious a new frequency. You're striking the tuning fork differently, and something subtle begins to happen. Your attention shifts. You notice things you would have ignored before. Someone mentions a possibility. A door cracks open. A message arrives. It's not because those things weren't there before. It's because your old frequency blinded you to them. Change the frequency, and the invisible becomes visible. This is how timelines are chosen, not by force, but by perception and resonance. The deeper you go, the less you rely on external proof. In fact, the most powerful entanglements happen in the moments when nothing outside you has changed yet. That's the crucible. That's where your old frequency dies and your new one is born. If you can hold the new frequency through that space of uncertainty, reality has no choice but to follow. Because the field doesn't have free will, it mirrors you. Now let's talk about one of the most misunderstood aspects of this code: detachment. People often think detachment means not caring, but true detachment is not about apathy. It's about trust. When you're truly entangled with a frequency, you don't chase or beg for it. You know it's already done. Just like an entangled particle instantly mirrors its pair, your chosen timeline begins to mirror you. The anxiety of, when will it happen, fades because you've already shifted from wanting to being. And once you reach that state, the external manifestation often arrives in ways so effortless it almost feels unreal. Some call this the flow. Some call it divine timing. Some simply call it luck. But whatever name you give it, the underlying mechanism is entanglement. The moment your subconscious frequency locks in, the external universe begins its dance of alignment. Here's the truth that can change everything: the field is always listening, always responding. It's not personal. It doesn't judge. It doesn't decide what you deserve. It mirrors the frequency you hold. If you send out a frequency of fear, it mirrors fear. If you send out a frequency of trust, it mirrors trust. If you send out a frequency of abundance, it mirrors abundance. This is why mastering your inner state is the ultimate power, not power over others, but power over the only thing that ever truly matters: your vibration. And once you truly embody this, you realize something beautiful. You were never separate from the field. You were never just a drop in the ocean. You were the ocean experiencing itself as a drop. The code isn't something external you need to find. It's something within you, waiting to be remembered. So as your subconscious locks into a new frequency, the question is no longer, how do I make it happen? The question becomes, who do I need to be so it can happen naturally? That shift, from forcing to becoming, is the moment the code activates fully. That's the moment when the hidden power you've carried all along stops whispering and starts roaring.